G'day folks. Well, over the years we have filmed hundreds of incredibly talented people across the world. Many of these artists have gone on to produce their own videos as well. We hope you enjoy this great lesson from one of our Colour in Your Life artists.
Hello everybody, we're here at the Green Art House continuing our series of rendering the basic geometric shapes. Today I'm going to do the cube. So the cube's a little bit more different. There's more planes, there's more angles, which means that there's going to be abrupt changes in values from one plane to the next. So we'll have the same light source. We'll keep it coming from this way, from above, okay? Now, once again, we'll fill this whole area with one value. And if you noticed, I did draw the cube down there first. I just wanted to speed this along a little bit for you, and all it is a 4-inch square that I've put into a 1-point perspective. So we have a value over the whole thing. I take my brush again, just give it a light rub, press it into the paper just a tiny bit. And then take the chamois and then do circles. I'm not pressing very hard, just a nice light touch. Okay, so we have a nice uniform value over the whole thing. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. You're going to have two planes that will have cast shadows. This plane right here, since it's on the front part, the light's behind it, you'll have a cast shadow from this edge, this top edge, down a little bit this way. And you'll also have one here, along here, and along here. And that's where the light source is actually missing the object. So I'm going to start off with those at first, just to start to bring up some of the darker values, so that when I put in the highlight along this ridge right here, it'll be a little bit more noticeable. So all I'm doing here is just roughing it in. And as I get a little bit farther down, I'll start to get a little bit lighter with the pressure. Because down here at the bottom, this is where that ambient light is going to be. And so on this side as well. This is where that light source is bouncing up from this surface onto your surface of the cube. So we'll come over here. And we'll start to get our cast shadow on this side as well. And then down this side. This is considered, this plane here is considered the back side of my cube, the farthest away from the light source, so it itself is going to be darker than any other plane. So we'll just shade this in right now and keep this dark. This is going to be our darkest plane. Okay, so core shadow. Core shadow. Shadow side, shadow plane. And as it comes down to the bottom part, that's where you'll get a little bit lighter because that's where ambient light is going to be reflecting up onto this surface. Over here, you have a little bit of your core shadow. But this plane is not as dark as your shadow plane. So it'll be just a little bit lighter. Okay, and if you notice, I haven't done anything to the top yet. That's on purpose, because I want to make sure that these two planes are the correct values before I start with the top. So I'm coming in with my shader here, my blender, and I'm just going to work that little bit of core shadow right on that plane, that edge, and then blend out the plane. And I'm working in different directions because I want to try to get this value as uniform as I can. Which with this big a surface, I might end up using my chamois to do. Now I'll get into my shadowed area. And blend that out. Okay, let's go back into this lighter plane over here. And once again, I'll do circles. And start to make this a little bit more uniform. All right, now, since we have a light, a mid, and a dark, I want to put in that cast shadow to get that richness of that black that I'm looking for. So let's develop that right now. And if you want, we can use a straight edge to clean that up, so no worries. And after a while, you'll get good at the feeling of the pressure that you'll need. Down in here is the occlusion shadow. Remember, it's the absence of light. So let's use our straight edge. We can clean that edge up really nicely there. Take my blender again and just give this cast shadow a little bit of rub. And remember, as it goes away from the object, it gets lighter and softer. Okay? Now let's develop that highlight that's going across that ridge. And that's on my top plane. And here again, you can form the kneaded eraser, which is really nice. You can form it into a wedge and get a little bit more precise. I want a firm edge there, but I don't want a really hard edge. So I'm just lightly pressing with that kneaded eraser. Then I can come back in with my blender, and whatever charcoal is left on my blender, I can just use that. I don't even have to put any charcoal on there. Just give that a nice light rub back in there. Take that chamois and give it a little bit of wipe to make it a little bit softer and more uniformed. There we go. That looks better. And then the outside here, if you want, you can clean up some edges. I'm more interested in seeing you render the inside of that cube more accurately than the outside, because this would be something that might possibly be sitting in a still life that is surrounded by other objects. So this outside, some of these edges might be really soft or lost in that still life. So I'm more interested in how you render the inside, the internal part of that cube to make it look 3D. Make sure we get more of that highlight in there, and then we can come back in with our white chalk. Get that edge a little crisper. And then have a nice smoother transition going backwards into those halftones on the top plane. Now I go back in. I like to deepen that core shadow. I like that to really pop. Get a nice, really chiaroscuro type of look. Nice Caravaggio with a lot of nice light and darks. And I'm pressing pretty firmly at this point because I want to deposit a lot more charcoal on. See, now look at that contrast. That's beautiful. That's better. Come back in with my blending tool. Just give it a nice light rub. All right, and there we have it. So let me call out the values again. We have our highlight. halftones, have our coarse shadow, reflective, or ambient light, have our cast, shadow, and then over here we have our little bit of mid darks. So this is where it gets a little bit more complicated with the cube. We have mid halftones. And then we have a little bit of lighter halftones. Okay, so there you have it. We got the cube. Now it's nice. It's sitting in there. It's a little bit more 3D than just a flat line drawing or a square. So we've made this square a cube in 1 point perspective. I just did a 1 point perspective here. We have our cast shadow. We have our light source coming this way. We have our highlights, our halftones, our mid light halftones. We have our coarse shadow, reflective light. That's from this surface here, whatever it's sitting on. So it could actually change color as well. So if you have, let's even talk about that for just a tiny bit. So if you have a reflective ambient light here, let's say this table is yellow, and this is a blue cube, a light blue cube. This light here might actually be green. Will turn a little bit green because that yellow is bouncing up onto this surface, which turns this green. Now, also because it's in the shadowed part, that's when there will be a tiny touch of black in it. So it's shade, so it's shadow. So that would turn green right in there. And then as it goes up this way, because it's going away from this surface, it'll start to get more blue. Okay, it'll go back to the original color of the object. Then you have your cast, and you're all done. So stay tuned. We're going to do some more of these. I've got the cylinder to do left, and we'll get this whole series wrapped up. And I know you guys are going to do a fantastic job with this. Here again, great exercise to do. Keep in touch with this, because every object that you're going to ever paint or come across is from these basic geometric shapes. So enjoy, practice.